Hi, I'm Adrian Helfert, CIO of Multi-Asset at Westwood Holdings Group. Thank you for joining today. We wanted to give you a very quick update on the markets. Of course, the markets, especially the equity markets, have gyrated over the course of the year, a little less so on the interest rate markets. The equity markets right now on the S&P 500 is down a little bit over 5%, yet the 10-year interest rate is up significantly, up over 100 basis points. The 2-year interest rate, more of a proxy for what the Federal Reserve is going to do in hiking interest rates, is up almost 2%. These things will impact the consumer. Mortgage rates this week went up over 5% for a 30-year lock on average. It's highly possible that that's going to impact housing markets as well. That reduces the affordability of your actual mortgage payment. And so is it possible that housing markets drop as a result? It's possible. One thing offsetting that, of course, is that supply in the housing markets are super low. If you're like me and you Zillow around your neighborhood to see what's working and what's not, you'll find that there's still not much inventory. The supply of open new houses for those that are finding increasing mobility as a result of COVID or simply looking for a new home as a result of more wealth, more income from higher wages is still very low. That is supportive, but mortgage rates are up. Another dynamic we think important to point to is the war in Ukraine, of course. Since the war in Ukraine, the equity markets are actually up. When it started on February 23rd, 24th, the S&P 500 is a little bit higher. Interest rates, though, are still much higher. The central bank is going to be forced into more activity, not less, more tightening, not less, more pulling of the punch bowl from the proverbial party. Reason being is that inflation is potentially going up in the near term. Ukraine and Russia are nearly a third of the world's wheat and barley exports. As a result, there's less export shipping because we're seeing sanctions and because we're seeing destruction of crop activity. And that leads to higher prices. That leads to higher prices in food, that leads to higher prices in goods, more difficult supply chains. All of that pushes the central bank's hand in having to control that activity. So higher expected inflation in the short term, higher interest rates. At some point, this is something that could, of course, negatively impact the consumer. Focusing on food for a second, we're seeing significantly higher food prices, 13% higher food prices just over the course of this year already. That's extraordinary. What we're going to see is a developing dynamic or a thematic, as we might talk about in the investment world, that would be where we see higher potential in opportunities in those that are agricultural science, those that are machinery that help you increase crop yields. Crop yields are down as a result of things like the potential for more climate change, the potential that we have seen regulations coming home to roost now in using pesticides and other things that reduce crop yields. At the same time that we see difficult supply lines, that means more food inflation. That means that we'll see more opportunity, we think, in food sciences, crop sciences, and agricultural science, and nutrients, potash, areas that will help hopefully increase crop yields in the future and potentially reduce that impact on the consumer. Long story short is, over the course of this year, yes, we have seen higher interest rates. We're seeing higher mortgage rates. We are seeing the flattening of the 10-year yield minus the 2-year yield, a reduction in that, which means lower potential economic activity in the longer term, and maybe less wealth effect from lower equity markets than we have seen in the past. All of this could impact the consumer when you have inflation in the mix. And as a result, we have our proverbial antenna up thinking about where the opportunities might lie. One of the opportunities is going to be on finding increasing crop yields, so the food inflation dynamic is going to be important. Looking at the energy space as well, where obviously oil prices and natural gas prices are up significantly, looking for ways that we can capture more opportunity from that as well. Thank you very much for listening today. We look forward to seeing you soon.